Have you ever wondered what really happened to the fallen angels, Azazel and Samyaza, those who defied the heavens and corrupted humanity? What few know is that this story is not just about disobedience, but about the most epic fight the spiritual world has ever seen. Raphael and Miguel, two archangels of immeasurable power, were tasked with a crucial mission: capture these powerful beings and restore balance between heaven and earth. But how did they do it? What dark secrets does this battle hide? The answer may change your perception of what happens in the invisible shadows of celestial history. Get ready to uncover mysteries that have been hidden for centuries. From the beginning of creation, angels were beings of pure light, sent to guide and protect humanity. Among them, there were two names that stood out for the depth of their influence: Azazel and Samyaza. However, what began as a sacred mission soon turned into a rebellion. When observing the world of men, these fallen angels allowed themselves to be seduced by the pleasures and power that mortals held. His wings, once a symbol of purity, became shadows over the earth. Samyaza's rebellion and Azazel's corruption marked the beginning of a new age of darkness, and it was in this scenario that everything changed. Azazel, known as the disseminator of forbidden knowledge, was the one who first corrupted human beings. He offered the wisdom of weapons, metals, and magic, transforming ordinary men into power-hungry warriors. Samyaza, in turn, led the heavenly rebellion, urging other angels to abandon their divine purpose. Together, they broke down the barriers that separated the world of men and the kingdom of heaven. And with that, humanity, fascinated and lost, began to follow a path of decadence and chaos. The fall of these angels had a devastating impact. Civilizations that once thrived began to wither under the evil influence of fallen angels. Chaos ensued in every corner of the earth as humanity descended into war, violence, and destruction. It wasn't just a physical fight, it was a spiritual battle where divine knowledge was distorted and used for dark purposes. Azazel and Samyaza became more than leaders of a rebellion. They became symbols of everything that is most corrupt and dark in the human heart. This rebellion, however, did not go unnoticed by the heavens. The archangels, led by Michael and Raphael, watched this corruption unfold and prepared to act. But the task would not be easy, as Azazel and Samyaza were powerful and would not give up their conquests easily. Earth had already been deeply scarred by his influence, and restoring order would require more than strength. Michael and Raphael's wisdom and patience would be put to the test in one of the greatest battles in celestial history. The Watchers, as they were known, were angels sent to Earth with a single purpose: to protect and guide humanity in its development. They were beings of incomparable wisdom, destined to teach humans the secrets of the universe, the paths of light and harmony. Samyaza, one of the most powerful among them, was the leader of this group. Under their tutelage, the Watchers should have been celestial guides, but upon observing humanity closely, many of them were seduced by the pleasures of the flesh and power over mortals. Over time, Samyaza began to question the heavenly rules. His influence among the Watchers grew, and what was a sacred mission turned into a conspiracy against heaven. He convinced other angels that their powers should not be limited, and that they could shape the earth to their will. It was at this moment that corruption infiltrated the hearts of the Watchers. They went from protectors to dominators, handing over knowledge that humans were not ready to receive. Secrets about the stars, metal, and the power over life and death. The downfall of the Watchers began with these forbidden teachings. Humans, once humble and reverent, became ambitious and violent, using the knowledge of fallen angels to conquer each other. Wars began to spread like wildfire, and the earth, which was supposed to be a haven of peace and learning, became a battlefield. Samyaza, wrapped in his own pride, believed that this new order was superior, that humans were now stronger and more independent. But in reality, they were just further away from their divine essence. The original purpose of the Watchers has been distorted beyond recognition. What was supposed to be divine help turned into a spiritual disaster. The earth was sunk in darkness, and the corruption could no longer be contained. It was then that heaven decided to act. But capturing the Watchers, especially Samyaza, would not be a simple task. The rebellion was already underway, and the heavens were preparing for an unprecedented battle. Samyaza, with his undeniable charisma and imposing presence, stood out as the natural leader of the rebellion among the angels. He wasn't just an ordinary watcher. His influence went beyond physical leadership. It was spiritual magnetism that attracted the other angels to their cause. He began to question the rules of heaven in subtle ways, planting seeds of doubt in the hearts of those around him. He believed that angels should be free to experience all that earth offered, and that divine knowledge should not be limited. The way Samyaza manipulated the situation was impressive. He used his wisdom to transform the other angels' curiosity into desire, and their desire into rebellion. One of the most striking moments was when he proposed a pact, an oath of union between the fallen angels. This pact sealed the fate of many who, deluded by power and the promise of freedom, joined him in his fall. It was as if a shadow had descended upon his wings, corrupting the purity of his intentions. From then on, there was no turning back. The Samyaza Pact was one of the most daring acts ever recorded in celestial history. He knew that by sealing this deal, he would be declaring war on the heavens, and that's exactly what he did. Under his leadership, the fallen angels began to shape the earth according to their own will. They mingled with humans, revealed forbidden secrets, and turned the world into a place of constant conflict. What had once been a divine mission was now a power play. Samyaza's rebellion, however, did not go unnoticed. Miguel and Raphael, watching from afar, knew that this insurrection was gaining strength. They saw the chaos growing, but they also understood that the final battle was yet to come. And Samyaza, in his arrogance, believed that he could challenge even the archangels. But what he didn't know was that destiny had already begun to be drawn in the stars, and the end of the rebellion would be more inevitable than he imagined. Samyaza, with his undeniable charisma and imposing presence, stood out as the natural leader of the rebellion among the angels. He wasn't just an ordinary watcher. His influence went beyond physical leadership. It was spiritual magnetism that attracted the other angels to their cause. He began to question the rules of heaven in subtle ways, planting seeds of doubt in the hearts of those around him. He believed that angels should be free to experience all that earth offered, and that divine knowledge should not be limited. The way Samyaza manipulated the situation was impressive. He used his wisdom to transform the other angels' curiosity into desire, and their desire into rebellion. One of the most striking moments was when he proposed a pact, an oath of union between the fallen angels. This pact sealed the fate of many who, deluded by power and the promise of freedom, joined him in his fall. It was as if a shadow had descended upon his wings, corrupting the purity of his intentions. From then on, there was no turning back. The Samyaza Pact was one of the most daring acts ever recorded in celestial history. He knew that by sealing this deal, he would be declaring war on the heavens, and that's exactly what he did. Under his leadership, the fallen angels began to shape the earth according to their own will. They mingled with humans, revealed forbidden secrets, and turned the world into a place of constant conflict. What had once been a divine mission was now a power play. Samyaza's rebellion, however, did not go unnoticed. Miguel and Raphael, watching from afar, knew that this insurrection was gaining strength. They saw the chaos growing, but they also understood that the final battle was yet to come. And Samyaza, in his arrogance, believed that he could challenge even the archangels. But what he didn't know was that destiny had already begun to be drawn in the stars, and the end of the rebellion would be more inevitable than he imagined. Azazel was different from Samyaza. While the leader of the rebellion was concerned with seducing the angels, Azazel had another focus: humanity. He saw in humans an opportunity, a vulnerability to be exploited. Azazel wasn't interested in just observing or guiding. He wanted to shape, corrupt, and transform. He brought to earth knowledge that should never be revealed, teaching men how to forge weapons, how to manipulate metals, and, darkest of all, how to master the secrets of hidden forces. It was Azazel who gave humanity the power to destroy. Their forbidden knowledge made men more violent, more ambitious. The mastery of weapons and metal transformed simple shepherds and farmers into warriors, and the peaceful world that once existed quickly fell apart into wars and conflicts. Azazel watched it all with dark pleasure, watching as its impact spread like a plague. He not only corrupted the bodies, but the souls of men, distorting morality and the sense of justice. Under their influence, the earth turned into a battlefield where greed and cruelty reigned. But Azazel's corruption went beyond weapons. He also taught the secrets of the stars, magic, and enchantments. Knowledge that should have been restricted to the celestial world was handed over to men. Under his guidance, humanity began to play with forces it did not fully understand. The result was a profound imbalance, a rupture between the spiritual and physical planes. What was once harmony was now chaos, and Azazel, with his dark smile, knew there was no going back. Even in the face of such destruction, Azazel did not stop. He believed that the earth was destined to become a reflection of heavenly power, but under the command of fallen angels. His objective was clear: to dominate, control, and reign. However, what he did not anticipate was that heaven was aware of his every move. Raphael and Miguel watched, waiting for the right moment to act. And as Azazel corrupted, heavenly justice silently approached, ready to seal his fate. As time passed, the teachings of Azazel and Samyaza transformed humanity into something unrecognizable. What was once a peaceful civilization in harmony with nature became a society marked by violence, ambition, and greed. Forbidden knowledge corrupted not only men's morals, but also their very essence. Decay was not only manifested in actions, but also in thoughts, in the deepest desires. And so, Earth, which had been a place of learning, became a battlefield where power was the only currency of exchange. Wars became constant, and chaos reigned in civilizations. Kings and leaders, once ruled by wisdom and justice, now sought only dominion over their fellow men. What Azazel and Samyaza brought to humanity was not only the knowledge of weapons and magic, but also the poison of division. Entire nations rose only to be destroyed, and corruption spread like an uncontrollable wildfire. The earth, which should flourish under the protection of the Watchers, withered under the weight of its decay. Morality also began to dissolve. What was once considered sacred was quickly discarded in the name of power. Humans who had received heavenly gifts began to use them to subjugate each other. Magic, enchantments, and weapons of destruction were used without regard for consequences. The balance between the spiritual and physical planes was irreversibly broken. And at the center of it all, Azazel and Samyaza watched the world they had shaped, believing that this was the new order. But in heaven, divine patience came to an end. Raphael and Miguel watched the decline of humanity with a watchful eye. They knew something needed to be done, that corruption could not continue indefinitely. The earth was sinking into a darkness from which it could not emerge alone. And so, the decision was made. The fallen angels would be captured, and humanity would be rescued. But how to arrest such powerful beings without plunging the world further into chaos? This would be the mission of the archangels. The earth was in ruins, and decay had infiltrated every aspect of human life. It was then that divine wrath began to manifest. It was not ordinary anger, but a necessary reaction to the corruption that took over creation. The Creator, seeing the devastating effects of forbidden knowledge, decided it was time to intervene directly. Justice needed to be restored, and that would require more than a simple trial. An act of heavenly power was needed that would put an end to Azazel and Samyaza's rebellion. Patience had run out. Heaven issued a clear decree. The fallen angels were to be arrested and order restored. Raphael and Michael, the most powerful archangels, were tasked with capturing the leaders of the rebellion. They knew it would not be an easy task. After all, Azazel and Samyaza were powerful beings, and their influence was already deeply rooted in the earth. But divine justice was not intimidated by the challenge. The decision had already been made, and what remained was just the execution of this grandiose plan. Humanity, on the other hand, was blind to what was happening in the heavens. They continued to use the forbidden knowledge, not realizing that heavenly forces were already moving to intervene. But the impact of divine wrath would be felt by everyone, even those who were unaware of the heavenly conflict. Raphael and Miguel's presence on earth would bring with them unimaginable power. It would not just be a battle of angels against angels, but a restoration of the balance between good and evil, a purification that would affect all creation. This divine wrath was not revenge, but rather a call to justice. It was time to correct the imbalance that had been created by the fallen angels. Raphael and Miguel were ready to act, but they knew this would be a mission unlike any they had ever faced. The challenge was not just in capturing Azazel and Samyaza, but in restoring harmony to the human world. The celestial clock was already counting down the seconds, and justice was about to be served. Michael, the archangel commander of the heavenly hosts, has always been a symbol of divine strength and leadership. His presence was imposing, and his determination unshakable. When the decree to capture Azazel and Samyaza was issued, he knew he would be responsible for leading this mission. His role as leader of the heavenly forces was not just that of a warrior, but that of a strategist. Every movement, every action of Miguel reflected the wisdom that came directly from the Creator. He was not just fighting a physical war, but a spiritual battle for the restoration of order. Miguel did not underestimate his enemies. He knew that both Azazel and Samyaza were powerful and that their influence on earth was profound. But Miguel's confidence was not just in his own strength, but in the mission he had been given. The weight of the responsibility he carried did not weaken him, but strengthened him. He knew that divine justice was on his side, and that no corrupted power could equal the light that guided his actions. Every step taken was calculated, every decision precise. The heavenly army that Michael led was prepared for war. Angels of all orders awaited his instructions, ready to face the fallen. Miguel knew that this would not be an ordinary battle. The arrest of Azazel and Samyaza represented much more than the simple capture of two angels. It was the beginning of a new era for humanity and the end of a period of unlimited corruption. Miguel's mission was not just physical, but spiritual. He needed to restore balance, not just in heaven, but also on earth. With his celestial sword in hand, Miguel prepared for the final confrontation. He knew that Azazel and Samyaza's fate was sealed, but the process of arresting them would require more than force. It would require wisdom, patience, and, above all, faith in the divine plan. The battle was about to begin, and Michael would lead the heavenly hosts with the same steadfastness with which he had always guided God's army. Justice was approaching, and Miguel's light was about to shine brighter than ever. Raphael has always been known as the Archangel of Healing, the one who restored life and balance where chaos tried to establish itself. But few know his face as a warrior. one who wields the divine sword with the same dexterity he uses to heal. When he was called on the mission to capture Azazel and Samyaza, Raphael knew he couldn't just use his healing power. He would need to prepare for battle. The duality of his role made his presence even more significant. He was the healer who brought restoration, but also the warrior who would fight to preserve that healing. The earth was wounded, and Raphael knew that his mission would not only be to arrest the fallen angels, but also to restore the lost balance. While Michael led the heavenly hosts with strength and strategy, Raphael brought with him the hope that, after the battle, there would be redemption for humanity. The healing he offered was not just physical, but spiritual. Raphael carried the burden of knowing that, even after Azazel and Samyaza's arrest, the scars of humanity would remain. He would be the one who, after the battle, would help heal these deep wounds. During the mission, Raphael knew he would face immense challenges. Azazel, with his corrupted knowledge, had left a deep mark on earth, but Raphael was not afraid. His faith was as unshakable as his strength. He knew that to capture Azazel, he would need to fight with an intensity that he had rarely demonstrated. And, alongside Miguel, he prepared for the confrontation. The balance between strength and healing was in his hands, and he was ready to fulfill his role. In Raphael's heart, there was a certainty: God's justice would prevail. Even in the face of the darkness that Azazel and Samyaza spread, Raphael knew that the light of healing and restoration would shine once again. He wasn't just fighting to trap the fallen angels. He was fighting to restore the earth, so that creation could one day flourish again. And so, with his sword in one hand and healing in the other, Raphael went into battle, prepared to face any adversity that came his way. Samyaza's arrest was a strategic act, meticulously planned by the archangels. Miguel knew that it would not be possible to simply attack the leader of the rebellion head-on without a solid plan. Samyaza was cunning, powerful, and surrounded by loyal followers. Capturing him would require more than strength. It would require intelligence and patience. Miguel and Raphael devised a strategy that involved not only the heavenly hosts, but also the use of the earthly environment itself against Samyaza. The goal was not just to defeat him, but to completely neutralize him. Samyaza, in his arrogance, believed he was untouchable. He had installed himself in a position of power, manipulating the forces of earth to his advantage. But this trust was precisely what allowed the archangels to approach undetected. Miguel knew that a direct attack would be reckless, so the strategy involved a combination of distractions and subtle attacks, gradually destabilizing Samyaza's forces. When the leader of the fallen finally realized what was happening, it was too late. He was surrounded. The moment of capture was grand. The celestial forces advanced overwhelmingly, leaving Samyaza with no alternative. He fought, as expected from a being of his power, but Miguel and Raphael were ready for any resistance. The battle that followed was quick but intense. The power of the archangels surpassed that of Samyaza, and with his last strength he tried to escape. But his fate was already sealed. Michael, with his celestial sword, imprisoned him in chains made of divine light, which no fallen being could break. With Samyaza captured, Earth breathed a little easier. However, this victory was not the end of the mission. Azazel was still at large, and his capture would be an even greater challenge. But at that moment, Michael and Raphael knew they had taken a crucial step in restoring divine order. The leader of the rebellion was imprisoned, and now the focus would turn to the most dangerous being of all, Azazel. After his capture, Samyaza was taken to a place few dare imagine. The fate of the fallen angels is not simply a physical prison, but a spiritual exile, a deep abyss where heavenly light can barely penetrate. Miguel, with his firm hands, dragged Samyaza to this place of eternal isolation, where he would be kept in chains until the final judgment. The place where Samyaza was imprisoned is known to be impenetrable, an unfathomable abyss that imprisons the essence of the fallen and forever separates them from divine creation. The chains surrounding Samyaza are not made of metal but of pure celestial light. They were forged by divine justice itself, ensuring that no corrupted power could free him. Each link represents the transgression he committed. Each gap in the chains is a reminder of the forbidden secrets he revealed to humanity. The place where he is imprisoned is so deep and dark that even the other fallen angels fear to approach it. Samyaza, once powerful and proud, now finds himself immobilized, unable to move or influence the world. But Samyaza's incarceration goes beyond physical punishment. The place where he was imprisoned is not just a place of oblivion, but a constant reminder of his downfall. He is isolated not only from Earth, but also from his own followers, who once revered him. It is an abyss of silence where he is forced to confront his actions and realize that despite his greatness, he was no match for divine justice. Every second in that abyss is an eternity of regret. However, Samyaza's arrest did not bring a complete end to the influence of the fallen angels. Although he was confined, the shadow of his rebellion still hung over the earth. His arrest marked a major advance for the heavenly forces, but the mission was not complete. The next target was Azazel, whose capture would be even more challenging. Samyaza's fate was sealed, but the battle was far from over. Azazel has always been a challenge in itself, even darker than Samyaza. While he led the rebellion with charisma, Azazel worked in the shadows, deeply corrupting humanity. His presence was not thunderous, but his every action left a trail of destruction that seemed irreparable. When Raphael and Miguel captured Samyaza, they knew the next step would be even more dangerous. Azazel was not just a fallen leader. He was the master of corruption, the one who taught men the secrets that led them to war and destroy each other. He was not content with simple rebellion. His desire was to transform the world into a dark reflection of what it once was. Azazel fiercely resisted the approach of celestial forces. Unlike Samyaza, he did not underestimate his enemies. It was prepared, with its traps and hidden magic, waiting for Raphael and Miguel. He knew that sooner or later they would come to capture him, and therefore his last act of rebellion would be the cruelest of all. He intensified his influence over Earth, inciting humans to even bloodier wars, driving nations to collapse, and extending his claws into the souls of mortals. The battle against him would not just be physical, it would be a test of spiritual strength, where light and darkness would face each other in their purest form. The clash with Azazel was marked by constant resistance. Even while he was surrounded by the heavenly hosts, he cast his curses, tried to corrupt those who were in the service of justice. Raphael and Miguel faced an opponent who deeply understood humanity's weaknesses and knew how to exploit them. But despite his cunning and power, Azazel would not be able to escape his approaching fate. Each blow dealt by Michael and Raphael was a reaffirmation that divine justice would prevail, and that no being, however powerful, could avoid judgment. At the moment of his capture, the world seemed to hold its breath. Azazel, the angel who corrupted humanity, the being who plunged the earth into unprecedented darkness, was finally about to be imprisoned. But, even in the face of imminent defeat, Azazel tried one last trick. He intensified his efforts to sow chaos, trying to destroy as much as he could before being arrested. And, although his influence still resonated on Earth, Miguel and Raphael knew that his capture was the decisive step in restoring balance. The confrontation between Raphael and Azazel was more than a simple battle. It was the clash between the light of healing and the darkness of corruption. Raphael knew that Azazel wouldn't give in easily. He was dealing with an adversary who deeply knew the weaknesses of creation, someone who had a unique ability to to manipulate and corrupt whatever he touched. When they met on the battlefield, Raphael felt the weight of the responsibility he carried. His mission was not just to defeat Azazel, but to restore the balance he had destroyed. Raphael's spiritual strength was put to the test with each blow. Azazel, in turn, fought with desperate fury. He knew the end was approaching, but he wasn't willing to give himself up without one last attempt to cause as much chaos as possible. His words were poisonous, attempts to destabilize Raphael, to plant doubts about divine justice. However, Raphael remained unshakable. His strength came not only from his celestial sword, but from the conviction that he was fighting for the greater good, for the restoration of the order that Azazel had tried to destroy. Raphael's every movement was calculated, precise, demonstrating the skill of a warrior who was also a healer. The battle lasted for what seemed like forever. Azazel, with his cunning, cast spells and curses, trying to escape imminent capture. But Raphael, with the wisdom acquired in ages of divine servitude, managed to predict every move, frustrating Azazel's attempts. The physical clash was intense, but the real conflict was on the spiritual plane. Raphael knew that, to win, he would need to not only physically defeat Azazel, but also neutralize the influence he had on Earth. At the decisive moment, Raphael struck a blow that sealed Azazel's fate. With his sword of light, he imprisoned the fallen angel, immobilizing him in chains that not even the most powerful of fallen beings could break. The victory was complete, but Raphael knew that the work was far from finished. Although Azazel was imprisoned, the scars of his corruption still marked humanity. The battle had been won, but the restoration was just beginning. The light had prevailed over the darkness, but the journey of healing and redemption still needed to continue. Azazel's arrest was a moment of great weight for the universe. As the streams of divine light closed around him, it was as if a dense shadow was finally dispelled. Miguel and Raphael together dragged Azazel to a deep abyss, a place so far from creation that no being could even imagine. The abyss was not just a physical prison, but a spiritual exile, where Azazel would be confined, separated from the world he had so corrupted. The silence of that place echoed like an eternal sentence, a constant reminder of what happens when rebellion meets divine justice. Azazel was imprisoned in a place so dark and impenetrable that not even his own influence could escape it. The chains that immobilized him were forged by heavenly light, and he knew he could not break them. They were more than just chains. They were symbols of his defeat, of his failure to subvert the divine plan. The curse that sealed him there was clear and irrevocable. Azazel would be confined until the end of time, when, in the final judgment, he would be definitively judged for his crimes. Although Azazel's imprisonment was a relief to heaven and earth, the world still bore the scars of his corruption. The impact of his teachings still reverberated throughout humanity. He had sown greed, war, and chaos, and even though he was imprisoned, these seeds continued to grow. Raphael and Miguel knew that Azazel's capture was just the beginning of restoring order. Humanity, although free from their direct influence, would still need to struggle with the lasting effects of their corruption. But with Azazel confined, there was hope. With Azazel imprisoned, the Archangel's mission reached an outcome, but not the end. The victory over the fallen angels marked the beginning of a new era, an era of reconstruction and healing. Raphael, with his role as curator, knew there was still a lot of work ahead. Justice had been served, but the balance that Azazel had destroyed would take time to restore. And so, while Azazel remained confined in the abyss, the archangels returned to their post, ready to guide humanity on the path to redemption. The heavenly hosts played a crucial role in the arrest of Azazel and Samyaza. Miguel and Raphael were the leaders, but they were not alone in this mission. Angels of all orders came together in a divine alliance to restore the order that had been corrupted by the fallen angels. These beings, who previously acted as guides and protectors, now found themselves on the front lines of a spiritual war. His strength came not only from his combat capacity, but from his absolute loyalty to the Creator and the greater purpose of restoring peace and balance in the universe. The loyalty of the heavenly hosts was unshakable. Under Michael's leadership, each angel knew exactly what needed to be done. There was no room for hesitation or doubt. They knew that the mission they had at hand was sacred, and any mistake could mean the permanence of corruption on earth. Raphael, with his healing spirit, led another part of the hosts, ensuring that, after the battle, the restoration could happen completely. It wasn't just a war of swords and shields, it was a battle for the soul of humanity. The magnitude of the battle was something never seen before. The heavenly forces and the corrupted forces of the fallen angels clashed with an intensity that shook the spiritual and physical realms. Every blow struck, every movement of the heavenly hosts was an affirmation that light would prevail over darkness. And in the end, when Azazel and Samyaza were defeated, the victory did not just belong to Miguel and Raphael, but to every angel who fought alongside them, every celestial being who gave their part so that balance was restored. The heavenly hosts not only won the battle, but demonstrated that the strength of unity, loyalty, and divine justice is unbreakable. And although the war had been won, they knew that the greater mission was still ongoing. The earth would need time to heal, and the heavenly hosts would remain watchful, ready to intervene whenever the balance was threatened again. The battle was just one part of a larger story, a story of redemption and restoration that would continue to be written. The fall of Azazel and Samyaza left a deep and irreversible mark on earth. The forbidden knowledge they brought has corrupted humanity in such a way that the civilization, once peaceful and in harmony with the universe, has fragmented into a spiral of war and destruction. The impact was devastating. Where there was once understanding, there was now chaos. Humans, fascinated by the power that the fallen angels offered, became greedy and violent, ignoring the laws of nature and spirituality that once guided their lives. Civilizations that thrived on wisdom and balance collapsed, destroyed by the reckless use of knowledge of weapons and the occult arts. Azazel's teachings on metal and war created a race of warriors who turned against each other. What should have been a natural evolution became a race for power, for supremacy, destroying everything in its path. The earth, as a result, has become battle-scarred, with blood spilled in every corner of the planet, and human societies have lost their sense of unity and purpose. The impact of the fall of the angels was also reflected in nature. The harmony between the elements and creatures of earth has been broken. The forests burned, the rivers dried up, and even the skies seemed darker. Azazel and Samyaza had not just corrupted the spirits of humans, they have unbalanced the physical world itself. The earth, which once flourished, now struggled to survive. It was as if the planet was sinking under the weight of the corruption that had been introduced. And, even with the fallen angels imprisoned, the effects of that fall continued to resonate. However, there was hope. Although the impact of the fall was vast, the heavenly forces were determined to help humanity recover. Michael, Raphael, and the heavenly hosts knew that the restoration of the earth would take time, but they believed that divine justice and the light of true knowledge would prevail. The capture of Azazel and Samyaza was just the first step. The challenge now would be to help humanity free itself from the darkness into which it had been plunged, and thus resume its path towards the light. The Book of Enoch is one of the most fascinating and enigmatic sources on the fall of Azazel and Samyaza. This ancient text, revered by some traditions and forgotten by others, brings revelations that few know about. In it, Enoch, the sacred messenger between heaven and earth, recounts the events that led to the corruption of humanity and the rebellion of the Watchers. Azazel and Samyaza are described as those mainly responsible for disseminating forbidden knowledge, bringing secrets to earth that should remain in the divine domain. The book is, at the same time, a cautionary tale and a spiritual guide. Enoch, in his visions, describes how Azazel taught men the art of war and destruction, while Samyaza encouraged them to stray from the divine ways. But the Book of Enoch is not limited to narrating corruption. He also reveals the divine judgments that fell upon the fallen angels. The revelations that Enoch received from the heavens regarding the imprisonment of Azazel and Samyaza were described in detail. They would be imprisoned in deep abysses, where they would wait until the final judgment. For Enoch, the fall of these angels was not only a tragedy, but a lesson that power without responsibility leads to ruin. Enoch's role as intermediary was crucial. He received directly from God the mission to warn humanity about the dangers of corrupted knowledge. The book's revelations show that even with Azazel and Samyaza imprisoned, their influence would continue to haunt the earth for generations. Enoch's warning was not only for those who lived in his time, but also for future generations. His objective was clear: to protect humanity from the temptation of following the same paths as the fallen angels. The revelations of the Book of Enoch still echo to this day. Many believe that Enoch's teachings hold profound truths about the battle between good and evil. And, for those who venture to study this ancient text, it offers unique insight into the role of Azazel and Samyaza in the spiritual history of humanity. But even with knowledge revealed, the mystery remains. To what extent do the effects of the fall of the angels still shape the destiny of the world? Divine intervention in the downfall of Azazel and Samyaza was inevitable. The earth was on the verge of collapse, and the corruption of the fallen angels had reached unbearable proportions. God's justice could not be ignored. The angels, who were created to protect and guide, had become instruments of destruction. And so, divine intervention was decreed. It was more than an act of punishment. It was an effort to restore balance to the universe, to bring order where chaos had taken hold. God, in His wisdom, could not allow the rebellion to continue without consequences. The judgment of the fallen angels was strict. Not only did God decide to imprison Azazel and Samyaza, but He also decreed that their followers would face the same fate. Every corrupt action would have a divine response. Enoch, in his visions, witnessed the moment when God decided that justice must be done. It was a justice that transcends the simple act of punishment. It was a correction of the natural course of things, a reaffirmation that good, in the end, prevails over evil. The fallen angels, who were once powerful, now faced the weight of heavenly justice. Divine intervention also brought hope to humanity. Although the impact of Azazel and Samyaza's corruption was profound, humanity was not abandoned. God, in His mercy, decided that men would not be punished for the crimes of angels. On the contrary, He offered humanity the chance to redeem itself, to turn away from forbidden teachings and return to the path of light. God's justice was impartial, but also compassionate. It was a justice that sought to restore, not just destroy. Even with the arrest of Azazel and Samyaza, God's mission on earth was not completed. Divine justice would continue to act, guiding humanity away from the darkness that the fallen angels had sown. But the lesson was clear. Those who dare to corrupt creation will face God's intervention, and justice will prevail. The battle for Earth's soul was far from over, but the first great victory had been won with the capture of the rebellion's leaders. The fall of Azazel and Samyaza not only corrupted humanity, but also gave rise to the Nephilim, the giants that inhabited the earth. These beings were the result of the union between the fallen angels and the daughters of men, a forbidden mixture that brought chaos and destruction to the world. The Nephilim, with their enormous strength and violent nature, dominated the earth, spreading fear and oppression wherever they went. They were living symbols of the corruption that Azazel and Samyaza had sown, beings that defied the natural and spiritual laws of the universe. These giants not only ruled by force, but also by cruelty. They destroyed everything in their path, building empires of tyranny and terror. Humans, powerless in the face of such power, suffered under its rule. The Nephilim represented the culmination of the decadence that had taken over the earth. While the fallen angels corrupted minds and souls, the Nephilim ravaged bodies and cities. Each step of the giants was a grim reminder that divine creation had been irreversibly distorted. However, the fall of the Nephilim was written in the stars. Divine intervention not only trapped Azazel and Samyaza, but also decreed the end of the giants. The flood, which would become one of the most catastrophic events in human history, was the means by which God decided to purify the earth. The Nephilim, with all their strength, could not escape divine judgment. The waters swept them from the face of the earth, ending an era of violence and disorder. The fall of the giants marked the end of a period of profound imbalance between heaven and earth. Even after their destruction, the Nephilim continued to be remembered as symbols of what happens when power is corrupted. They are the living reminder that, regardless of strength or power, no one is above divine justice. The fall of the giants was a crucial moment in restoring balance in the world, but it was also an eternal lesson for humanity. The age of the Nephilim has come to an end, but the story of their fall serves as a warning to future generations. The rebellion led by Samyaza and Azazel was not isolated. Many other watchers, fascinated by power and seduced by the promise of freedom, followed the same path of corruption. These angels, who were once guardians and protectors of humanity, would now face the consequences of their actions. The fall of Samyaza and Azazel was not just an individual punishment. It was a wake-up call to all watchers who chose to rebel against divine laws. Their fate was sealed, and the justice that fell on the leaders of the rebellion would also affect their followers. Each of the watchers who participated in the corruption of humanity was imprisoned in deep abysses, as were their leaders. The imprisonment of these angels was not just a physical punishment, but a definitive separation between them and the creation they had betrayed. They, who had once been bearers of divine light, now found themselves enveloped by eternal darkness, unable to influence the world again. The chains that imprisoned them were made of the very heavenly power they had defied, and none of them could escape the fate they created for themselves. However, even with the watchers imprisoned, Earth continued to feel the effects of their rebellion. The seeds of corruption they sowed still flourished, and humanity struggled to free itself from the forbidden knowledge these angels had brought. The Watchers' punishment served as a grim reminder that once divine order is violated, balance is difficult to restore. Capturing the Watchers was an important step, but the healing process for humanity would be long and painful. The consequences for the Watchers were severe, but fair. They became an eternal example that no one, not even angels, is above divine justice. The story of his fall and imprisonment is a lesson not only for celestial beings, but also for humanity. The fallen Watchers, who chose the path of corruption, now await the final judgment, where their actions will finally be weighed and judged. And so, as Earth continues to recover, the Watchers remain imprisoned, unable to once again interfere with the destiny of creation. With the arrest of Azazel, Samyaza, and the other Watchers, the Earth slowly began to breathe again. Divine intervention brought with it a promise of restoration. The Creator, in His infinite mercy, did not abandon humanity to darkness. Instead, it offered new hope, an opportunity for men to turn away from corrupted knowledge and return to the paths of light. Divine restitution was not just a correction of error, but an invitation to a renewed future. The archangels, especially Raphael, took on the role of guiding humanity back to its original purpose. Humanity, although deeply affected by the influence of the fallen angels, now had the chance to rebuild. The promise of a new era was clear. With the arrest of the corruptors, the earth could heal. Civilizations that had previously surrendered to war and chaos began to seek peace and wisdom. Although the path was arduous, there was a new light that guided humans. Raphael, with his healing mission, worked tirelessly to help humanity free itself from the spiritual wounds left by the rebellion. He knew complete healing would take time, but hope was real. Divine restitution also brought new protections to Earth. The angels, now more vigilant than ever, ensured that the balance was not threatened again. Miguel, with his strength and leadership, continued to protect creation from invisible dangers. Heaven and earth were in tune, and despite the deep scars, creation was moving towards a new beginning. The influences of the fallen angels were slowly being undone, and divine justice was re-establishing the harmony that had been destroyed. The promise of a new era shone like a beacon for all who still believed in divine goodness and power. This new hope, however, came with responsibility. Humanity, which was now free from the clutches of Azazel and Samyaza, needed to choose its path wisely. Heaven's teachings were clear. True strength came not from the power of weapons or forbidden knowledge, but from faith, wisdom, and connection with the divine. The era of corruption had come to an end, but the challenge of keeping the light on was just beginning. The earth was ready to flourish again, and the future was bright as long as humanity followed the path of truth. Michael and Raphael, the archangels who led the battle against Azazel and Samyaza, are remembered as heaven's eternal heroes. His actions, more than mere acts of war, were gestures of deep commitment to divine justice and the protection of creation. Michael, with his celestial sword, has always been the symbol of unwavering strength and fearless leadership. He guided the heavenly hosts with unbreakable determination, ensuring that the balance between good and evil was restored. Raphael, on the other hand, brought with him healing and restoration, not only for the angels, but also for humanity. Miguel, from the beginning of the rebellion, knew that his mission went beyond simply defeating the fallen angels. He needed to ensure that justice was applied impeccably, without fail. His glory came not only from his physical strength, but from his ability to lead wisely, always choosing the path that best served the divine purpose. The figure of Michael inspired both angels and humans, reminding everyone that power is only true when used to serve justice. His loyalty to the Creator was unwavering, and this made him an immortal legend in heaven and on earth. Raphael, on the other hand, fulfilled an equally essential role. While Miguel fought with sword in hand, Raphael focused on restoring the spiritual balance that had been destroyed. His glory came from the healing, compassion, and wisdom he imparted. He knew that humanity, although marked by the corruption of Azazel and Samyaza, had within itself the potential for redemption. Raphael was, and always will be, a symbol of hope, someone who carries the power to heal even the deepest wounds of the soul. Your role in celestial history is as important as that of any warrior. Together, Miguel and Raphael became eternal heroes. Not only did they defeat the fallen angels, but they also guided creation back to its path of light. His actions, which marked the end of the rebellion, are remembered to this day as an example of leadership, courage, and compassion. In heaven, their names are pronounced with reverence. On earth, their legacies live on in the hearts of those who still seek truth and justice. And so, Miguel and Raphael remain eternal figures, guardians of creation, ready to act whenever the balance is threatened. The abyss, where Azazel, Samyaza, and the other rebel angels were imprisoned, is more than just a physical place. He is the final destination for those who defy divine laws, an eternal prison from which there is no return. The abyss, described as a place of darkness and absolute isolation, is the opposite of everything the rebel angels knew. There, where the heavenly light can barely penetrate, they are left to reflect on their actions, completely cut off from the world they tried to corrupt. Every second in that place is a reminder that divine justice is inescapable. The chains that imprison them are forged from divine power itself, impossible to break. These angels, who were once glorious and powerful, are now immobilized, voiceless, influenceless, just awaiting final judgment. The abyss is not just a place of punishment, it is also a space of oblivion, where the fallen angels are beyond the reach of any being, unable to exert the slightest impact on creation. This spiritual prison is a total separation from the divine presence, a state of eternal solitude that no being, however powerful, can endure without succumbing to madness. The symbolism of the abyss is profound. He represents the ultimate consequence of rebellion, the tragic end for those who chose to defy the cosmic order. For Azazel, Samyaza, and the others, the abyss is a reflection of their own corruption. They, who have so influenced and corrupted the earth, now face a fate of absolute emptiness. No power, knowledge, or strategy can help them escape. The abyss is where the pride and ambition of the fallen angels find their final response, a response of silence and darkness. But the abyss is not the end of everything. It is just the stage before the final judgment. At the end of time, when the great judgment takes place, these fallen angels will be brought back to face their actions before the Creator. Until then, they remain imprisoned, with no chance of redemption or influence on the world. The abyss keeps them contained, far from the reach of creation, until the moment when divine justice will judge them definitively, and the cycle of their rebellions will finally be ended. Even after his imprisonment, Azazel's legacy continued to reverberate on earth. The fallen angel's influence was so profound that his actions left indelible marks on human behavior. Azazel's teachings, the knowledge of weapons, metal, war, and magic, continued to be used by men, even centuries after his capture. The evil he sowed was not erased by his imprisonment. Rather, it persisted in the form of wars, ambition, and greed that continued to rule the hearts of mortals. Earth, no matter how hard it tried to free itself from Azazel's shadow, seemed trapped in a cycle of destruction. Azazel's legacy was manifested in the great civilizations that rose and fell over the centuries. The weapons he taught men to forge were used to build empires, and then to destroy them. Nations that dominated the world based on strength and conquest followed the path that Azazel had charted for humanity. His influence was visible in every act of violence, in every conflict that tore at the fabric of society. Evil persisted, no longer because of Azazel's direct presence, but because of the echoes of his teachings, which had infiltrated the roots of human history. Even with Azazel's arrest, the battle against his influence was still raging. Raphael and Miguel, knowing this, continued to be vigilant, guiding humanity and trying to restore order. But the fight against Azazel's legacy was difficult, as he had sown his ideas so deeply that many humans failed to realize they were following a path of corruption. The persistence of the evil he left on earth was a constant reminder that even when the leaders of heavenly rebellion are defeated, their ideas can live on. However, there was hope. Earth, despite being marked by Azazel's influences, still had the potential to redeem itself. The light that the archangels brought with the capture of the fallen angels was a promise that, in time, evil could be overcome. Although Azazel's legacy was strong, he was not invincible. Humanity had within itself the ability to free itself from its teachings and reconnect with the principles of light and harmony. Evil persisted, but the fight for redemption continued. From the beginning of creation, Raphael and Michael played crucial roles in defending the divine order. But, as the end of times approaches, their missions take on even more importance. They are not only warriors and healers, but also guardians who ensure that God's plan is fulfilled until the last moment. The prophecies speak of a time when the fallen angels imprisoned in the abyss will be called to face the final judgment. In this apocalyptic scenario, Raphael and Miguel will be at the forefront of the final battle, ready to ensure that divine justice prevails, just as they did with Azazel and Samyaza. Michael, the leader of the heavenly hosts, will be the first to rise when chaos tries to take over the earth at the end of time. He will be the supreme commander of the divine forces that will fight against the forces of evil which try to emerge one last time. His actions in times past, such as Samyaza's arrest, were only a prelude of what is to come. At the end of time, Michael will be called to lead the final battle, known as Armageddon, where light and darkness will face each other once again in a decisive confrontation. Raphael, the curator and restorer, will have an equally important role. He will not only be the warrior who will face evil, but also the angel who will guide the remaining humanity to final redemption. During the end times, Raphael will stand alongside those who seek spiritual healing, offering restoration to those who choose to follow the path of light. Your mission will be to ensure that, after the destruction caused by the final battle, Earth can be restored, and that creation, now purified, flourishes once again. Raphael is, therefore, the symbol of hope amid the devastation that the end times will bring. At the end of time, Raphael and Miguel will represent the two faces of divine justice, relentless strength and compassionate healing. Together, they will ensure that God's plan is fulfilled and that light definitively triumphs over darkness. As they await the moment of the final confrontation, they remain vigilant, watching events unfold on earth and in the heavens. When the time comes, they will not hesitate to act, as they know that their role is crucial to the destiny of all creation. The end of times will not be the end of light, but the rebirth of a new era. The story of Azazel and Samyaza may seem distant in time, but its echoes still resonate in the spiritual struggles humanity faces today. The corruption that these fallen angels brought to earth is reflected in the temptations, difficult choices, and internal battles that each individual faces. The forbidden knowledge that once led humanity to turn away from the light still manifests itself in subtler forms. The unbridled quest for power, greed, the desire to control that which is beyond human understanding. The spiritual struggle continues, and, just as in the past, the choices we make shape our destiny. However, just as in the time of the fallen angels, redemption is always possible. Raphael and Miguel continue to be examples that the fight for good is never lost. They show that, even in the face of corruption and chaos, there is a way out, a path back to the light. Today, the spiritual struggle is less visible, but equally intense. It is a battle fought in hearts and minds, where each choice can bring humanity closer to its redemption or take it further away. The stories of Azazel and Samyaza serve as warnings, reminding us that even when evil seems to prevail, divine justice is always present. In modern times, the lessons of this ancient rebellion are still applicable. The fight against evil, against corrupting influences, is a daily battle. Each of us carries within us the ability to choose between light and darkness, between creation and destruction. And just like humans in Azazel's time, we still face the temptation to use knowledge in selfish and destructive ways. However, hope remains alive. The divine presence, represented by Raphael and Miguel, continues to guide those who seek redemption, showing that, regardless of how deep the fall, there is always a way back. Spiritual struggle is a constant, and the story of Azazel and Samyaza is a reminder that humanity's journey is far from over. The battle between good and evil does not only take place in major apocalyptic events, but in small everyday decisions. Redemption is within everyone's reach, but it requires effort, faith, and the willingness to resist the influences that keep us away from the light. By reflecting on the past, we can find the keys to winning the battles of the present and ensuring that, in the end, the light prevails over any shadow that tries to obscure the path. The nature of fallen angels, such as Azazel and Samyaza, is a fascinating paradox between light and darkness. They were not born corrupt. Rather, they were created as beings of pure light, destined to fulfill divine purposes on earth. However, free will, the same gift given to humans, allowed these angels to make their own decisions. And it was this freedom that led them to rebellion. Azazel and Samyaza chose to turn away from the light, drawn by the temptations of power and influence over humanity. They are the embodiment of how even the highest beings can stray from their path. This delicate balance between light and darkness is an essential characteristic of fallen angels. They are not completely evil. Their essence still carries fragments of the light that once defined them. However, their actions, marked by corruption and transgression, irremediably separated them from divine grace. The dual nature of the fallen angels reflects the eternal battle between good and evil, not as absolute opposites, but as forces in constant tension, where each choice can tip the scales one way or the other. Azazel, for example, used divine knowledge for destructive purposes, while Samyaza exploited leadership to incite revolt. The fall of these angels serves as a powerful reminder that free will is a gift, but also a responsibility. They were not forced to rebel, but chose to follow a path of darkness, believing they could become gods over creation. This choice transformed them, distorting the light they possessed into a shadow that spread chaos across the earth. However, the tension between light and darkness in their nature suggests that, somewhere within them, there still exists the memory of who they were before the fall. This internal conflict, however, is suffocated by the pride and desire for power that consumed them. The nature of fallen angels is a mirror for humanity. Just like them, humans also have both light and darkness within them, and the choices they make determine which of these forces will prevail. The story of Azazel and Samyaza teaches us that even the most powerful beings are subject to the consequences of their decisions. The balance between light and dark is not something that can be maintained without effort. The struggle between these forces is constant, and those who choose darkness will inevitably face the consequences of their choice, just as the fallen angels did. The battle between good and evil, personified by Azazel, Samyaza, and the archangels Michael and Raphael, is a story that never truly ends. Although the fallen angels have been defeated and imprisoned, the evil they sowed continues to exist, manifesting itself in the spiritual struggles humanity faces daily. Good and evil are not fixed forces. They are in constant conflict, moving through the decisions each individual makes, the choices that guide the heart. This battle, invisible to the eyes of many, is the heart of the human experience and divine creation. The imprisonment of Azazel and Samyaza was a great victory for heaven, but also a reminder that the fight for justice never ends. Light and darkness continue to face each other in various forms, not only in epic battles, but also in small, everyday actions. Michael and Raphael, with their swords and their cures, represent the force of divine justice, always ready to intervene when the balance is in danger. However, the true power of this battle lies in the hands of humanity, who have the choice to follow the path of light or succumb to darkness. The spiritual battle that began with the fallen angels still reverberates through time. It is not just a distant tale, but a reality that affects the present and will shape the future. The hope is that, just as in the past, the light will always find a way to prevail. But the story is not just about victory. It's about struggle, sacrifice, and the constant need to watch the path. Good and evil are forces that, despite being ancient, continue to define the destinies of everyone who inhabits the cosmos. The light has always had the potential to win, but the continuous effort to keep it alive is what defines the true nature of this eternal battle. As long as there are souls willing to fight for justice, truth, and redemption, evil can never truly triumph. The capture of Azazel and Samyaza was just one part of a much larger story, a story that continues to this day and that we all in some way helped write. After all, the end of the battle is still far away, and the outcome, to a large extent, depends on the choices we will still make.
If you're interested in having a Bible like the one we use in our studies, check out the link in the first pinned comment. If you enjoy our content and can support our channel, consider buying us a coffee through Buy Me a Coffee. Additionally, if you can purchase a crucifix, we also have a link in the first pinned comment. We greatly appreciate your support. God bless, and see you in the next video.